What up, chat back? Bethesda, we gotta talk. Alright, Bethesda got a problem, okay? You look back at all the stuff they used to do. Amazing. Arena, groundbreaking for its time. Same thing with Daggerfall. Not gonna talk about those ones right now because I don't have much experience with them. Arena, dope as fuck. I downloaded DOS and played all that. I like how the sword mechanic is you swing. That's where you swing. That type of stuff is cool. That being said, I'm awful at that game. I've made it out of the dungeon a few times, but that's about it. But either way, that game, for all its problems, I'd still say pretty fucking peak. I'm not gonna lie. Daggerfall. Still, even today, and this is what? Daggerfall came out in 97, something like that. I don't remember the exact date, but all this time later, all these years later, Daggerfall is still one of the biggest games in the sense of map size. And yeah, I know a lot of it, they had like procedurally generated stuff and all that. Alright, I get that. But you can still go all throughout Tamriel. You gotta admit, for the 90s, even for today's standards, that's kick-ass. Alright, which brings us to the real Bethesda problem. My first game was Morrowind, right? I played Morrowind alone when I was 6. Anyone who's played Morrowind knows, normally 6-year-olds ain't playing that shit. It's a great game, don't get me wrong, but kids don't usually like reading. But that being said, Morrowind, fire as fuck. Been playing it for years. Started out on the original Xbox. Anyone who's played that port knows how it go. I swear when I was younger, it actually loaded a lot faster. I mean, that could be the case with the Xbox being younger and all that, but nowadays when I play it on there, yeah, I don't play it on there. That's the best way to put it. But Morrowind was peak, and it had a lot of things going for it. I mean, it still does. I can't say it had, but it was a great fucking game. I mean, I know I have bias towards it, considering it's like my first game and all that, whatever. I love Morrowind. If I could get a Morrowind remaster, I'd play that shit every day. Like, I'd be so happy about that. But thinking back to it, you were able to do what you wanted in Morrowind. You know, you could do the same thing in future games to an extent, but nothing quite like Morrowind. I remember being a kid and like, I mean, who didn't try fighting Caius? You know, he's a good little matchup to try and fight once in a while. If you weren't prepared, he definitely beat your ass. But I remember taking out someone, I don't remember who they were, but it was someone linked to the story evidently. So I kill him, and a little message pops up. And I can't remember the message, you know, word for word, but it basically said something along the lines of like, hey, you killed an important character, you might want to reload your save, otherwise your world is like doomed, you know, you're fucked. So I've had saves where I intentionally did that. So I'm sitting there playing, and it's funny because if you do that, the world straight up turns apocalyptic. Like, it's crazy. I remember like storms happening all the time. I remember mobs spawning in places where they didn't. And maybe this is me misremembering because I was a kid, but I just remember the whole world of Morrowind just getting fucked up. And that was cool because you just had the option to do that. And that was just one of the things that old school Morrowind, or old school Bethesda did better that they just don't do now. So, I don't know. But looking back at it, I know a lot of people don't really like the dice roll combat, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But if you think about it, that makes for a good RPG. You know, I get Oblivion fixed it up, but I still prefer the combat to Morrowind, if I'm being honest here. I think Morrowind with a Skyrim perk system would be match made in heaven type shit right there. But back to the RPG mechanics, you know, you could build your character how you wanted. which leads me to another point too. You could actually role play in this game because you had the option to do what you wanted. You could, you could be a little thief if you wanted to. You could be you could be like a warrior, and even a mage was like actually viable in that game. And we'll get to what they did to mage later. But I remember fucking around. I would go to the Mages Guild in Balmora, and you become like a member. And I used to remember all the flowers as well, but I remember all the mushrooms I have to grab. You just go bink, run them shits over to them, get all that money. Once you get through all the missions and stuff like that, you're chilling, because one of them, the girl from up top, she has a bunch of soul gems. She'll like walk down, so you can go up there and you just steal all her shit, which, I mean, if you didn't have good enchanting, it didn't really matter if you had good shit. But I remember stealing that shit every fucking playthrough, dude, for no reason. I don't know why. But you just could. That's the cool part about it. You just could. And I know you can steal in like the modern games, but they don't have that classic Bethesda jank that I grew up with. And I like the I mean, they still do, don't get me wrong, but it's not like the old school Bethesda jank, I should say. But I like being able to go somewhere and not be followed by a guard. Like, I know there were spots where the guards were patrol, I'm pretty sure. I don't remember there being a store where you could go into it and then go to the upstairs and a guard would follow you. I could be misremembering that though, but I don't remember that being in Morrowind. And I like that. I like being able to just go fuck around, do whatever, and do what I want to do, And especially when it came to like story, you could ignore the story. I'm not saying you would beat the game that way, but it's possible to do it. You can just walk around, go to a city. All right, I've done everything in this city. Let me go to the next city. Boom, And that's the cool part too, is the cities were actually fleshed out in a good way. Like Skyrim's cool in the sense of like, yeah, it's pretty and all that, but eventually you hit a point and there's no more roads. Well, I can't say that. I guess it's been a while since I fucked around on the main road in Skyrim. But with Morrowind, it's like you're walking in town, then you walk out of the bridge, out of the town, and then you see a sign, and you want to go to another town, so you read the sign, you follow that direction. You get to another point, you see the sign, you follow that direction. It's that fucking simple. And that's the cool part about it too. Shit made you think. And I remember too, breaking out the journal. You had a journal system in that game, which was good. Don't get me wrong. You click the button, do all your stuff. I liked it. It was good. But it also helped to just have a physical journal on hand. I don't know. Maybe that's just me and like my fixation on games when I get into them or something like that. But I don't know. I like being able to write down my directions and be like, I gotta go here, go left, go right. Boom. Now I'm there. And games nowadays, they don't do that. They're just like, hey, you gotta do this mission over in this city. You don't know where the city's at, but don't worry, we put a fucking marker on your HUD and on your map, so now you can just see it forever, and it's just always staring you in the face. I don't know. It's lazy game design at the end of the day, and that's what was cool about Morrowind. Not a lazy game. So I'd say that concludes the Morrowind section. Sorry, I got a little bit off topic, but I had to get this recorded. I don't know, I felt like talking. So, yeah, I will catch you guys in the next bit about Oblivion. Peace. Now we on to Oblivion. Alright, so Oblivion, I ain't gonna say it's a bad game. It's a great game. I love that shit. I'll still go back and play it from time to time. I even bought the Oblivion Remastered. I just haven't really played too much of it, admittedly. I need to do that. I heard they fixed the leveling system on it, so I don't know. That's actually one of the things I have written down, I'm pretty sure. But one of the things with Oblivion, I think I said this in the first part, was that combat turned real time. which is cool, because when you swing and you hit, like, that's nice and all that. But at the same time, it just, I don't know. When it came to Oblivion, it felt like a step forward, at least. But, like I said, I'm biased. I like the dice roll combat, and because that felt like old school RPG mechanics, I guess, But, with Oblivion, they changed that combat, but on the other hand, too, they made magic often. So you can just use magic whenever, which is fucking fantastic. I love that. You needed to heal, boom, you got a healing. You wanted some damage, boom, there's a fireball, You could kind of just, like, pick and choose what you wanted, I guess. And I think I forgot to mention this in the first part about Morrowind, but you could make your own spells. And I know in Oblivion they kind of toned it down from where Morrowind was at, but Oblivion was still fucked up. You could still make some fucking ludicrous ass shit, You just gotta, like, think a little bit, and got the pocket scratch / like skill for it. But that's the thing, is you still needed skills, or at least enough magicka to be able to do stuff. So you still had to build your character correctly, like an RPG, which was cool. So another thing that was cool about Oblivion, you could still roleplay. It wasn't as in-depth as Morrowind. And one of the topics, or one of the points I have written down, actually relates to this. And that is that... Sorry, I'm trying to read what it says on my thing. Oh yeah, introduction of essential NPCs. You can't do whatever the fuck you want to do anymore. And that was definitely a step back. You definitely have freedom to do a decent bit of stuff, but if you want to kill someone important, sorry, but can't do it. Can't let you do that. That'd be too much fun, and we don't feel like coding, consequences. So, that's probably my biggest gripe with Oblivion, is that. On some other good stuff, the Game Biro engine. That was the first time they were using the Game Biro engine. I believe they started using it in like 2004, 2003 to start developing Oblivion with it. I don't remember what the documentary thing said on it, but this game was an example of Game Biro used to its fullest extent, used amazingly. Like, honestly, this is like, I don't know. I'll have to look up other Game Biro games, but from what I played being younger, Oblivion's low-key peak on that shit. Here's another one. World felt real and lived in. That was one thing that they were super happy with Oblivion, was that they gave NPCs their own pathing and stuff like that, so they'll have like their own routines, and they'll just like go about daily life without you intervening. And this is unrelated to NPCs, but they had a separate background thing, and granted it would be broken on a lot of saves, but goblins would like fight and have like literally fucking gang wars. Like, you got goblins fighting and shit. If you ever saw a goblin battle, you saw one of the goblin gang wars. That shit apparently always going on in the background. But here's the thing about Oblivion too. This is another good point. Beautiful. Pretty ass game. I mean, you go anywhere, it looks great. Even walking, I remember walking near the portals and shit, and it looks fucking awesome. Like, what, it's all like red and shit in the sky. It'd be looking great. You go over by there, it like kind of gives everything like this dark, ominous feeling. You know, kind of like you're going through the gates of hell. It's weird. It's like Bethesda kind of knew what they were doing when it came to the atmosphere back in the day. Another great thing, well, this is kind of like related to the game as a whole, but it was quirky and janky, like all Bethesda games are, you know, at the end of the day. But it was still great. It was still fun. And I'm not saying other titles aren't great with the whatever, Bethesda jank, whatever you want to call it. But this is another example of just one of those games. Fucking awesome. You know what I mean? You can go back and still have fun on Oblivion. And the last good point I have written down on here is fetch quests were fun and engaging. This wasn't the Radiant fetch quest, as far as I remember, of like, oh, go here, collect X, kill Y, and come back. You know, this was, oh, I need to make potions, go collect my nerd root, or whatever the fuck it was. You know, something cool like that. Not just like some bullshit ass one like Blackreach. I mean, we could talk about that more in the Skyrim section, but if anyone has played Skyrim as much as I played Skyrim, you know what the fuck I'm talking about when you talk about Blackreach. So, yeah, fuck that place. Back to Oblivion. This was the start of the downfall, unfortunately. They started to pander to a wider audience in the sense of they dumbed down some of the RPG mechanics, which it'd be like that. What are you gonna do? You know, at the end of the day, companies want to make money. That reminds me, Bethesda introduced the first piece of DLC with the fucking horse armor. So if you got problems with the modern DLC market, you can thank Bethesda. They literally caused the problem with this game. But that being said, majority of the DLC on this game is actually worth it and decent. They had like player homes, 3 expansions, 2 expansions, I can't remember, but they had a decent amount of DLC, and then obviously fucking horse armor. But yeah, good times. But my biggest gripe with it is they dumbed it down. They dumbed it down a lot. It's the introduction of that cursor I was talking about. Oh, here's a map marker, go right here. But here's the other downfall with Oblivion. And with Morrowind and stuff, yeah, fast travel was technically available to you right away. But here's the thing with Morrowind. You actually had to go talk to the people for it. On this game, I don't think they got boats. They definitely don't got what are they called? Silt Striders? I can call it a big ass flea. But they don't got Silt Striders in Oblivion, because those all died off in the Morrowind era. So it's like they don't even got nothing quirky or fun like that. And if you do take boats, I don't remember it. I think the most crazy thing I remember was you take like a little portal through something to get to the Shivering Isles. I don't know. It's been a minute since I played Oblivion. I gotta play that remaster, honestly, because now that I'm talking about it, I actually really want to play this game. But it was also the introduction of essential NPCs. And I don't know if I brought this up in the beginning or not. I don't think I did, because I separated these, so I'd talk about the separate topics. But essential NPCs. You can't kill some people. Why not? I want to be able to do whatever. If I want to play a fucking murderer, why can't I murder? You know what I mean? Alright, let me kill the princess. You know, hypothetically, I don't remember anything. This is just a bullshit situation. But, you know, why can't I go do that? Let me roleplay my character. If I want to be evil, I'm trying to be evil. So, there's some people who got this right in the Bethesda sphere. We'll call it that. Foreshadowing to future fucking topic. But, yeah, and then I think I already mentioned these, but making the game less in depth to engage a wider audience. You know, just dumbing down the mechanics in general. I get it. Making money is good. Making money is fun. Selling to a wider audience means more money, means more players. Sorry, I fucked up my speaking. But at the end of the day, I think there should be a separate offshoot of like more in-depth games, and then more like, here's the wider audience games. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, Oblivion, fantastic game. Honestly, it's a lot easier to play for people than Morrowind, which is understandable. The graphics, a lot prettier, you know. The advancements between 2003 and 2006 are astounding. Or 2005, I don't remember when Oblivion came out. I think it was 06. But the jump is crazy. You know, you go back on Morrowind and you're like, holy fuck, this looks like I'm looking at a fucking cardboard box. And then you go on Oblivion and then, you know, everything actually looks good. You know, you look at a fox and it looks like a fox. It don't look like fucking Minecraft. So, you know, to each their own. But that being said about Oblivion 2, I'm glad that they kept the armor system partially, but it's not as complex as Morrowind. So like I said, just a blatant dumb down of mechanics. But I think that's it for the Oblivion topic, honestly. So if anyone has played Bethesda games, you know what topic's up next. So, yeah, let me catch y'all on that one. Peace. Alright, so, you might hear some background noises. My neighbors are out doing stuff, and I don't have, like, filters and stuff like that. So, I mean, you could hear stuff in the other parts, so it don't really matter. But, chat back, and Skyrim. So that's our next bit. Great game, don't get me wrong. Skyrim's cool. Definitely a big title at the time. You know, this was back during peak Bethesda, you know, game, boom. You know, that's what they were doing back then. So 2011 drops, 11/11/11, boom, Skyrim release. All right. I remember playing it back then. I was scared of fucking spiders. But when I eventually got the game in, like, it was 2012 or 2013, I can't remember when I got it. I've been playing Skyrim forever now. But when I personally got it myself, it was like a year or two, I don't know. But I played the shit out of it. I played a lot of fucking Skyrim on the PS3. Don't get me wrong, you know, it's a good game, but it's boring in my opinion. You know, yeah, it's fun when you're like first experiencing it, but after you've experienced it for 140 plus days, yeah, it kind of gets a little stale. I'm not saying that like I wouldn't want to live in the Skyrim area, because, you know, it's really pretty and stuff like that, but like, you know, it's a game and I want to have fun on my game, and I like being able to have fun when it comes to like role playing, and unfortunately not really possible to do that in it. So let's get to the list. Let's see. So my main gripe, it went mainstream for a wider audience, which, you know, that was the same thing that Oblivion did, but they really took a balls to the wall with this game. So it's stripped down. It's stripped down. You don't got character selection, you don't got signs, you don't got nothing like that. I mean, it's just kind of boring. Even like, this isn't written down, but like, they killed speech. You can't even like talk shit to people no more. You just gotta like do what they wrote for dialogue, and it's cool, and don't get me wrong, but they just didn't flesh it out how they should have. So went mainstream for a wider audience. So yeah, that's fair. RPG elements are bare. I just kind of touched on that, but you don't have a character sheet. You know what I mean? So it's kind of hard to like grow your character. Yes, I know you have the stats and you have the stat increases, and if you do your skill, your sword gets better, blah, 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 whatever. They didn't fix it until the legacy system, if I'm being honest with you. Original Skyrim was shit. At least when it came to leveling up and stuff like that. I like being able to go, get my skill max, and then be like, all right, let me reset it to 15. Boom, all my perk slots back. You know, that makes it nice and easy to keep leveling up. Original did not have that, from what I remember. So, yeah. Next one, engaging roleplay is difficult on vanilla. So I've pretty much only played vanilla. I think maybe I played with a mod or two on PS4. Other than that, I've always been vanilla. Anytime I play anytime I play any Bethesda title, it's vanilla. I'm not a modding person. Modding's cool, don't get me wrong. I've just never really been in a position to be able to do it, because I'm mainly on console. Even when I played on PC, modding and all that, it's a little over my head sometimes, and I don't know, I think I could maybe do it now, but yeah, it was a little bit much for me back when I was still, you know, fucking around. But next thing on here is magic is no longer a late game build. So, you know, it is what it says. You know, you can't use magic in the late game anymore. Originally with like Morrowind and Oblivion, it wasn't like the strongest thing, but you could, again, spell make, which you could make some really good ass shit. And if you actually built your character around being a mage, you were chilling. It didn't even matter. But on here, it's like they kind of were like, oh, you want to shoot flames? Fuck you, pussy. So yeah, can't really do it. The only viable build when it comes to Skyrim, stealth archer. Everyone knew I was going to say it at some point today. But yeah, you know, Stealth archer. That's all it is. Everyone devolves to stealth archer. I literally resigned myself to not using a bow in gameplays because that's how easy it is to become a fucking stealth archer in Skyrim. You just do it accidentally. So that's actually a good complaint too. You always fall into stealth archer because that's the only effective method of killing enemies, you know? And it's like, you can play on a higher difficulty and make them more spongy and stuff like that. But realistically, if you have a good bow, good arrows, good perk setup and all that, it don't matter if you're on legendary. Your ass can sneak kill motherfuckers with a bow. It don't matter. So I don't know. That kind of like was boring to me. I remember in like Morrowind and Oblivion, if you wanted to do marksman, you had to like actually spec into it and, you know, practice and get better at it. Oblivion, you actually had to aim with the trajectory of the arrow, which was cool. Skyrim kind of has that, but at the same time, it's pretty much just a fucking point-and-click shooter at this rate. So the next complaint, you're locked into what the devs want you to do. So that being said, it's dialogue that the devs written, and unfortunately, Bethesda doesn't know how to make people be assholes. I think it's the best way to put it. Usually it's, no, you're going to be the bad guy, or you're going to be the good guy, and if you want to play as the bad guy, well, we kind of made that hard for you. So Bethesda doesn't really get the concept of having an evil protagonist, which I know is counterintuitive to itself, but my point being, they don't know how to write a mean character. You know, you can be a dick in old games, don't get me wrong, and that's what I liked about like Morrowind and stuff like that. You could literally taunt people. Like, that's just fun. It was just an option. You could just call them a bitch, basically. But they took that out, and it's like, at least Oblivion's minigame for speech was, you know, you had to do something. Skyrim, it's just cast a spell on them if you want to cast a spell on them. But other than that, once your speech is high enough, it doesn't fucking matter. You just sweet talk anyone. It's fucking boring. So they killed speech as well. But yeah, it like I said, you can't be a dick. And that's kind of boring because sometimes people just want to be assholes. So that leads me to another thing. Shit ton of essential NPCs, like way too many NPCs. And that's cool and all, don't get me wrong, I get it. You want your story to progress how you want your story to progress. That's cool and all. But let me kill a motherfucker if I'm trying to kill someone, bro. Like, okay, so what? I can't go mark out Stormcloak real quick, you know? Pop over to fucking Windhelm, mark out Ulfric. Like, you just can't do that. I don't know why. Why can't I bust in that temple and be like, bah, 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 you know? They don't let you do it. That's why. So, alright, sorry about that little jump. I had to go inside because my fucking neighbors are playing music, so I don't want to get copywritten on my stuff. But that brings me to the next thing, which is Radiant quests are constant. If you've played a Bethesda title, you know what Radiant quests are. It's the whole, hey, I need you to grab something. So you go grab it, and then you take it back. And it's randomly generated. You know, they're fucking boring. They're boring, you know? All they did was like, hey, make this quest happen here. Boring. Tired of it. So hopefully, we'll see. But maybe the next title won't have so many of them. But based on how Bethesda is, I don't think we're in luck. So that brings me to my last negative point, which is, it feels like you make no impact on the world. You do fucking everything there has to do in Skyrim. You know, you join the companions, you can do a thieves guild, you can do the brotherhood, you can do mages, you can do all this shit. But at the end of the day, they still treat you like garbage. It don't matter what you did, they don't like you. And that's the thing too, is you should, I'm not saying you should get locked out. I get it, it's a Bethesda title, you know, become the hero, do everything type thing. But it'd just be nice if like you get a little more respect. Like, once you become leader of the companions, I think the only time you get respect about being the companions is when you go into the lodge, which is cool. But at the same time, it's like, I want people to just recognize, like, oh, my character is like, save them. You know, that's cool. So now, what we're going to talk about is the positives of Skyrim. So, that being said, with all the negatives, combat is more fluid, but granted, it still has that good Bethesda jank. So, the combat is nice, you know? It feels good. You want to shoot a bow at people? That feels nice. You want to swing a sword at people? That feels nice, you know? Even magic, don't get me wrong, like I said, it's a little weak. It's still fun to use, you know? Especially once you get them higher level spells, or like conjuration. Conjuration's actually viable. So, stuff like that. But everyone knows that good Bethesda jank, it's been in all their titles previously. That's just how it is. Next thing, voice acting is improved. So there were definitely some voice acting issues in Oblivion, and then Morrowind really didn't have that much like spoken audio, at least as compared to like Oblivion and Skyrim. But the voices are improved. There's more voice actors. They took their time, there's not any funky dialogue mishaps like with that one character in an Imperial City or whatever. So they actually like took their time to QA their audio and stuff like that, which is nice. You like hearing good NPCs, that kind of gets you immersed in the world. So talking about the world, Skyrim itself, it's pretty and it's still fun to explore. Granted, it's not like, it doesn't give you that same experience as Morrowind or even Oblivion of just like, I'm going to the wilderness. But it's like, it's still nice, you're obviously in the wilderness a lot of times when you're in Skyrim, but it just kind of doesn't give that vibe, I guess. I don't know how to describe it. If you've played Skyrim, you know what I'm talking about though. Like, it's just kind of blasé, I guess would be the right word. I don't know. But I still enjoy it. It's fun walking around doing whatever, seeing what happens. Here's another one. Roleplay within combat is possible. So what I mean by that is, if you're a barbarian, you can swing a sword, you know what I mean? If you're a mage, you can do magic shit, at least until late game. Then you're kind of fucked without doing glitches, stuff like that. That's cool. If you want to be an archer, cool. Well, you're an archer, maybe not in dialogue choices, but at least when it comes to combat, you're doing what you want to do, which is nice. This next one says, some good / memorable side quest. So Skyrim, obviously it has its Radiant quest problem, but all the quests that they did actually, take a hand in making are good. They're great quests, and they're actually entertaining if you actually take the time to listen to it and, enjoy it, which is cool. It's when they get all lazy with the Radiant quests that it kind of falls apart, which isn't good. But Skyrim's got some good quests, like one that I can think of off the top of my head is like you have to help Orc Stronghold because they're like cursed or something. So you end up doing a bunch of stuff for them, and eventually they accept you in, and then that's how you end up getting Volendrun or something like that. I don't remember. It's some random fucking hammer, Daedric artifact or whatever. But that's cool. And I haven't even played that quest in years, and that just popped into my head. So that's my point being right there. I don't know if I said good world building, but it was decent world building, you know what I mean? The places in a civil war. You can see it. You can hear it. They don't fucking shut up about it. So I don't mind that. Even when it comes to like going to the city's pretty. The only downside with their world building is cities aren't up to scale. So you keep hearing about like how Whiterun is this huge big city, whatever, and then you get to Whiterun and it's like 4 blocks. Yeah, that's because they scaled it down. So it is good world building, but I don't think we're going to see realistic sized holds until Test 6, which if it comes out, it comes out. We'll see. So that brings me to my final good point about Skyrim, which is it had good DLC until re-releases. Creation Club, it's cool. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy using Creation Club things, but did I buy any of them? Hell no. I only got them bitches for free or in a re-release because I'm pretty sure they dropped them all like special edition or something like that. But it had good DLC. Dawnguard, fucking great. They unlock crossbows, they have trolls, they got vampirism, they fleshed out werewolf, lycanthropy and stuff like that. That's fucking sweet. That's good stuff. Hearthstone, building a house. I fuck with building a house. I'm sure motherfuckers who play Sims fuck with building a house. It's a good DLC, whether you like it or not. It's cool to be able to have your own custom plot of land and your own custom house that you built in quotation marks. Obviously it's a game, but you get to see it happen in real time as you do it, which is awesome. And then last one, which is Dragonborn, I believe. Fucking peak. You go back to Morrowind? Are you fucking kidding me, dude? Nah, that's a dub right there. So as far as I'm concerned, Skyrim's got some of the best DLC in the franchise. You know what I mean? It does have solid DLC. Granted, I didn't really play the Morrowind DLC, so I can't
talk too much on that, but I know you go to Solstheim and Morrowind as well. I just haven't gotten that far on that because I didn't get Special Edition until later on, honestly. But yeah, I mean, I think that concludes the end of Skyrim. You can hear it's a decent game. I like it, don't get me wrong. It could be better, just like Bethesda could be better, because that's the ultimate problem with Bethesda. They got lazy, they got complacent, they realized, oh, people will buy our games regardless, and at the end of the day, we gotta show them, like, nah, if you fumble the bag, that's it. Like, we've had plenty of learning opportunities over the years, I'll put it that way. But you can see, I mean, even when it comes to like 76, they've been fumbling. This is a different topic for a different time, but they've killed Elder Scrolls, and my faith in 6 is dwindling, to say the least. But I hope you guys enjoyed this little Bethesda rant, the Bethesda problem. This has been Chat Pack, and let me catch y'all on the next video. Peace.